All right, here we are in Dinosaur Flats, Texas. Hey, you're going to really love it. Right out of Canyon City, Texas. What a beautiful place. Lake, just all kinds of beautiful surroundings, but right here in the center of it, we have some fantastic things that I know you're going to be interested in dinosaur tracks and other fossils. But at this time, it gives me great pleasure, and they're going to be our hosts throughout this documentary, is to introduce you to Kenneth and Helen Thayer. Say, it's so good of you all to invite us in and share what you have here and tell America about it.
Glad to have you here.
And so I'm going to just hand you this microphone. Thank you very much.
You're sure welcome. Well, I want to welcome you all here to Dinosaur Flats at Canyon Lake, Texas. The way this was actually found is we was retiring. We bought 10 acres here at Canyon Lake, put up our retirement home, and in the meantime, we had an 8-foot embankment at the back door. We decided, wait a minute, due to snakes and stuff, and at that time 9 grandchildren, we thought, well, how are we going to get rid of this hill and not worry about the grandchildren all the time? So the state come in 1980. We donated 40,000 yards of dirt. The agreement was when they got through, they were to leave us enough to plant at least grass on the backyard. They took it down clear to the rock bit ledges. In 1980, they finished in 81. In 1982, we decided to put a backyard in, tried to. There wasn't enough dirt. The only thing we could do is scrape the dirt off and try to take the top rough layers with all the chuck holes. The chuck holes that we destroyed were dinosaur tracks. So what we did is when we popped off the first layer, it took the sediment out of the second layer and showed more tracks. A young college student was here on June the 9th of 82 and they was playing frisbee. The frisbee landed on Big Blue behind the back door, which you'll see. And he picks up the frisbee and he says, hey, you got some kind of crazy tracks here. From then on, it took us a long time to finally get someone in here to verify it. Mr. and his sister would call all over, trying to get a university, museum, or somebody in to verify what we had. They all said, where are you located? What creek bed or riverbed? We said, we're not. We're up on the top side of a hill. They said, I'm sorry, you can't have them there. Everything that we have found, we were told we could not find at the news conferences they had here. In the process of finding all this and disproving their theories, they will not come around now. The only time we get researchers here, and that is if they want to see what new we found. We do not dig anymore. We strictly let the schools, elementary and the middle schools, do the digging. They find their own fossils. They get to keep what they find, except the bones. We've had one animal uncovered. They claim wasn't an animal, but the pieces, you'll see. They took most of it away. Number 2 animal we have that you'll see out here laying down. We're still uncovering. We haven't even started. But we're just too old and too tired. We do not get funding. All the funding we get is out of our own pocket. And this gets a little expensive. When every time you go to a university or something, they'll say, okay, it's going to be so much money to do this or that. That is not the kind of help we need. We need the hard physical help to uncover. Is there anything you need to...
Yeah, well, I want to say our aim is toward the Christian schools and the in-home schools. They seem to be the best students. You get the public schools here, the teachers don't care. They let the kids run wild. So they are the ones that we're really going after. And we're being booked 3 and 4 a week of these people coming in. Sometimes you only have a group of 20, 25, but we don't care. We got the group coming in, and that's going to lead to others coming in. And word of mouth seems to be the best. Now, another thing on the find of this site here, If the state highway department engineers would have followed mandated procedures of the legislature, this would have been a Texas find, but they didn't do it. They just let it go to pot and said, "Bah, the heck with it." And then when I did go up to the legislature up there and talk to them up there, they knew nothing about it. Now it is criminal for them not to notify anybody up there of a dig going on.
We're going to take you through now and show you some of the tracks and so forth. But first I wanted to tell you a little story that happened to us this last September. People think that this country doesn't have anything as far as this type of thing, as far as really historical. And why it's not being preserved and taken care of, we'd like to find out. We were driving through the state of New Mexico. We come around a bend and we seen the most big, beautiful snails you ever wanted to see in your life. There was 8 of them falling out of the side of the hill. Those snails were over 6 feet across. We have pictures of them. We was on our way to Vernon, Utah, to a dinosaur monument. We went up there. Now they have known about us. They all seem to know about us. But we went up there and they have an information book on a desk there that you can look through, and it talks about dinosaur tracks and how important they are as far as studying them and finding out how they run, walk, and so forth. So much can be learned from it, which we have learned in 10 years. But in this book, it lists 3 areas where you can see dinosaur tracks. One of them is Glen Rose, Texas. And if I'm not mistaken, we've been up there quite a few times. If you're real lucky, you might see a dozen tracks, if you're real lucky. The other one is Tarpley. If you have to know what you're really looking at to see the tracks down there, and there's only about 2 that you can really recognize. The other one is Rocky Hill, Connecticut. And they do have the bird tracks, and they got a few hundred there. But those are the only 4 that are listed in that internal United States government book, that dinosaur monument. Right now, sitting where we're sitting and where you're filming this, looking at these hills around you within a radius of 30 miles, we have identified ourselves with no education 34 locations with dinosaur tracks. Okay, if you want to, I'm going to let you follow me and we'll go out and see what these dinosaur tracks and stuff look like. How would you like that?
All right.
All right, here we're just going to start with the little old dinosaurs. They're not very little, actually. Right here we have 4 tracks going across, the blue ones. These tracks are in a straight line. The one thing you have to remember, these are 2-legged dinosaurs. A 2-legged dinosaur, his legs are not on the outside of his body. His legs are directly under his body, the same as yours. Because if you take a dinosaur that can step from here to here in a straight line, his legs have to be underneath his body. The only thing is, and we usually make the school children figure this out, he's pigeon-toed. And if you weighed about 4 tons, about 20-some feet tall, and you were walking along the edge of the ancient ocean, you would have to do something to counteract that weight. So the only thing you can do is swing your legs and act like a little duck. There's going to be one right here. This one is not uncovered yet. What we mean by uncovered, there is sediment inside the track. This one here is cracking now. So this whole section will come out. The reason we know, if you listen, they're hollow. They have an air pocket between the sediment and the actual track. His next one is not uncovered. This one here is uncovered. It still has a little sediment in the bottom. This was uncovered in 1983 by the University of Houston student who was doing his thesis. We've never seen that thesis. I wonder why. Dinosaurs you've always been told that they drug their tails. Do little lizards? No, they don't. When they start moving, they raise their tail up in the air. So they're like a kangaroo. When they stop, they put their tail down. This right here is a large tail mark. It is not uncovered yet. We have not taken the sediment out. There's a reason we don't. To find out how big it's going to be before we uncover it, we've got to take more of this hill off. So every time we uncover one thing, we have to keep going to uncover the next. All the little tracks that you see, all these imprints, and I'm hoping your camera is picking them up, all these little indentations are more tracks, but they're not uncovered yet. We have to wait for the weather to crack them for us. When the weather cracks them, this sediment will come out. When it does, it looks like this. This one here can be taken out now if Mr. wanted to. But we leave it, he put glue around it so it couldn't get water under it. Your water acts as a hydraulic jack and forces the sediment layer up. So we try to preserve as many as we can, just natural, for the students so they can see the real thing. His next track is under the hill, so you know what we have to do. You know we have to get rid of some more dirt. The ledge that we're walking on right now goes 400 feet this way. It goes 1,800 feet underneath this mountain. It's been verified clean around now and comes out on the other side of the hill with Dinosaur Tracks. That is just one layer. If the one layer was uncovered, they would be in excess of over 50,000 tracks just on one layer. The little guy walking across here, they kept trying to tell us that we could not find little tracks due to their body weight. We have almost as many little ones as we do big ones now. The smallest one is so small, you really have to know what you're looking at, but it's there and it's pretty deep. This is his left, his right, his left, and his right. You don't see any more. But his next one should be right here. But the reason we can't uncover this one is this big one stepped on top of it. And this you'll see all the way across. You'll see one dinosaur stepping on top of another one. They was probably having a meeting here. The next one is going to be right here. And it starts cracking. Remember I showed you a minute ago about it being hollow? It's still hollow. How about another little tail? There's your tail mark. Here's another little one right here. So as far as the tail marks, there has been very few that we have found. We've been real lucky though with what we have found. We'll move on down here for a minute. Okay. The little green one we got going across here, this one here is cracked now. And like I told you, when it cracks, then we can take it out. This is the piece we want. We don't care about the track when this is taken out. Because this piece here, when we can get that out in one piece, then we have the original casting of the bottom of his foot. And we can make all the tracks we want to then. But what we want is the actual negative and the positive, and that's what we're getting. This is normal stride. From here to here, I'm going to step it so you can see. That's normal stride for a dinosaur this size walking. But now I'm going to step to the next one. Now look how close it is. He's like you. When he stops or slows up, he leaves a smaller trackway. This is his track right here. This is the sediment layer that come in. You should be able to see there's a crack underneath. So when it cracks, then we can lift this out. But what you want to remember is this rock that we're walking on is along the edge of the ancient Gulf of Mexico that went through the United States. This particular rock was washed in by the ocean like a storm, layer after layer. Each layer as it come in did not dry slow, because if it had, there would be mud cracks. It had to be baked fast. The only thing that can bake it fast like that and preserve these tracks this well would be volcanic ash. So as you'll see in a few minutes, you can see the layers that come in around different things. And you know that it had to happen fast, not over a period of a long time. Okay. This particular dinosaur, the green one coming across here, I'll let him show you. The first two tracks we have not uncovered yet. Number 3, number 4, and number 5 and 6 is uncovered. Now this creature has over 8 feet between its steps. He's not stepping, he is running. One of the questions I like to shoot at the children about this time, and they're getting wise to me, is if you're a dinosaur and you have an 8-foot spread, to have an 8-foot spread, you would have to have at least a 9-foot hip joint. If you've got a 9-foot hip joint, that's less than half of your body where your hip hits. You double it, add another quarter. That's going to throw this animal better than 22 feet tall. So if you're running and you're that big, why in the world would you run if you're that big? Would you run after a bigger one? Would you run from after a little one or from a big one? Or maybe to something? Let's find out. This little creature, there's no other tracks coming with him. So we know he's not running from one or after one. He's running to something. And what he's running to is a fight scene. If you have two big ones fighting, you know one's going to get killed. And when he gets killed, he's got to be somewhere. So when this one died, he fell down. And when he fell down, he left his own imprint. Right now, he's about 54 feet long. We still have the walkway to take out and take all the sandstone out. The dark dirt at the far end is what he's taken out. Mr. Thayer has uncovered it completely. Researchers like to come here and watch every year. Some of them come back every year. And they'll say, when are you going to finish it? We'll say there's plenty of picks and shovels around if you want to help. But they haven't done it so far. This particular animal fell one layer below you. He fell on this layer here. This layer that we're walking on has come in after this animal fell. It's not rounded or smooth. So we know that this layer came in after the animal fell. Also, when we were cleaning this, we took the top layer off. So there was another layer on here. Things always happen in a strange way. We were uncovering and we seen this rounding part and we thought it was a big heel section. We seen the end of the nose and we thought it was another heel section. So we started cleaning the mud out. We got down to the neck. We was going to fill it with cement because we used to come up here and park the cars and get stuck every time it rained. So in the process, a young gentleman from Washington, D.C., who was a sculptor, was here. He was standing up on the hill watching us. And he looked down and he says, "What are you doing?" We said, "We're going to clean this hole out and fill it with cement so we'll quit getting stuck in it with the cars." He says, "That's not a hole." He says, "That's a dinosaur head." From then, we just kept digging and more of it appeared. I don't know if you can see it or not, but underneath the corner of the building, which this used to be our house, now it's schoolrooms. Underneath the house, the tail and the back meets, but there's still going to be about 3 feet of the actual imprint of the body under the corner of the house. We have researchers that come here waiting for us to get finished with it. I should say waiting for Mr. to get finished. And they'll say, "When are you going to start tearing the house down?" Our reply to them is, "You buy it today, we'll help you tomorrow." To find out the animals that killed this one, this green one I showed you is only coming in to actually eat. He's coming in for scraps. To find the two that fought and the one that killed him, we have to take this top layer off. So when we take it off, we find something like this. This is not a complete track yet. There's a toe, toe, and toe. He has an instep on your foot just like you do. But this is his heel that goes clear back here, which is not uncovered yet. So his foot's going to go from here to here. That's one track. To find another one of his, he started running right here. We have to take that top layer off. He's going to have another one right here. His other one is going to be way up here in the front of us. And all you can see is just a light indentation. It's right here. Okay, we'll move on now. Okay, coming across here we have a black one, and he gets right up here. Now he's running. He goes underneath the building. We also have a red one running with him. The red one has got a long, narrow foot with more of a pointed heel. If you watch going through the different tracks, you'll see that they're all different types of animals, not one kind. There's over 12 different types. The red one has a name by the second grade classes. He's called the teardrop. The first grade classes have named the black one. He's called the round-footed thundering lizard because he has almost a perfectly round foot. To show you how we uncover them, we have a little one right here. Can you see it cracked? Sure you can. This is the sediment that we take out, and there's your dinosaur track. We like to have one or two that we can have here to show the students. We'd like to see someday this become strictly an educational site where children, it's a regular in-school day, not a field trip that's something to enjoy, but something to actually learn with. The nice little blue one here is our favorite. I bet you can guess why too. He's the first one that was identified. He comes out from under the building, and this is the one that the Frisbee landed on. So we really take care of him. The rest of his tracks, we coat them so they can't come out. But out in this center, you'll see where it's all breaking up. We do have a map that the University of Texas finally come in and made a map. They mapped the center section. In that center section, from their mapping, we have lost over 400 already. Okay, we'll move on here a little bit. Okay, the red one's coming across in front of you here. He's the one with the long, narrow foot. He's got a toe, toe, and toe. This is his heel section. It's almost pointed. So what you're seeing in the museum when you see a track is usually only this part here. You've never seen any like this. This one here is one of those that was chasing the other one across on the other side there a minute ago. But this one comes out now walking. So to find out what happened between the two, guess what we have to do? We have to tear the corner of the building down. The green one comes out from under the house, and he goes right on through. If we count the tracks coming out from underneath the building and those that are going underneath, there's probably well over 200 underneath the building. We have a little creature here now that we've had a lot of fun with. We've been told by the university representative from the University of Texas that it was a tail drag. Now anyone with half sense would know a tail drag, if it's dragging in the mud, is going to be smooth. Okay? All these little marks you see. See them? And they just keep going. And of course with his camera he can pick it up and he can shoot it right on through and show you. We've lost some of it. But also there's another track here. There's another one that comes right here, 24 inches over. And from here on it's raised up with sediment. It keeps going. It's cracking in here now, getting ready to come off. According to the books, researchers' journals, turtles back in the days with the dinosaurs were so big that the only way they could come ashore to lay their eggs was wait for a giant tidal wave or a high tide to wash them ashore. My question to them on this is, if that's the case, how did they get back to the ocean? These turtles are no different in size than what you see today, but it has been verified by different marine biologists and so forth. And like one of them told me, he's from Australia, he says, that's a female. I says, how do you know this? He says, well, that's simple. A female always comes ashore, which here's your ocean out here, and goes straight to the nesting area. I says, okay, that's fine. But that still doesn't prove to me for sure that that is a female turtle. He says, well, I'll have to tell you the rest of it then. He says, males, when they come ashore, are confused. They go all over the place. I like that answer. We have different spots on the ledge that some of them thinks it could be something buried, and this is one of them. There's another one, small one here. There's another one right here. Being that it is where the turtle is coming ashore to lay their eggs, they think maybe it could be turtle nest, but it definitely is something buried in the slab. Now, to prove to you that this turtle was coming ashore to lay her eggs and not just crossing over, going back the ocean, if he points you clean across, move over this way about 14 feet over there, you can see another line coming back and goes underneath this other patio. That's the turtle track. According to the marking, she's going back to the ocean. From Cibolo was here. She went home and she was going through some old National Geographics. She found the turtle crawling and shows exactly the tracks it makes. So this is the picture from National Geographic to prove what we found. This is the picture from our slab, and there goes your turtle tracks.
Oh my word.
Down at this end, we have two chasing each other, coming right on. One, don't ask me who's running first, because I wasn't here. Like I told some of the researchers, I'm not that old yet. But this one goes with this one and goes with this one. So one of them is chasing the other. So they're coming from this direction, they're going right underneath the hill. So the more the hill that we take off, the more the tracks that will be found. All these light colored spots that you see are more dinosaur tracks, but they're just not uncovered. But also, the top layer that we took off, which you're going to see it in a minute, some of those tracks could have been on that top layer. So we don't know. We sit and wait for them to crack. The green one comes out of the hill, and he's just taking his time. He's walking right on through. If you was as big as he is, you'd walk too. Why run? The blue one comes this way. Now, we were told when we first had this identified, and it was in all the newspapers, so no one can deny what they said, that all these dinosaurs were migrating going north. If that's the case, we ask, why are some of them going in the opposite direction? They didn't migrate going across, they lived here. They had to have, for so many to be going in so many different ways. This is kind of pretty in here. We didn't get it cleaned. But now I'm going to walk up now on the top layers. This is one of the layers that's right underneath the very top one. So here we have the red one coming out of the hill, and he goes right straight on through. You can see where he goes. The big one out here in the center, the yellow one, there's quite a little story with him. This little red one first come walking through this way. But to find any more of the tracks, we would have to take the top off. Then come the big one. Now, to catch all his tracks, now this stick is, what would you say, about 4.5 feet? I'm going to lay it down here. Now I'm going to step the rest of the way. Here's his next track. It's not uncovered yet. So now look at that. So he's got about a 9 to a 10-foot spread. Can you imagine how big a dinosaur would be to be able to run like that? And here's his next two. This one is not uncovered yet. But now let's see what happens. He's standing here, or running here, but he sure must have seen something awful good because there's his next track. He's stopping right here. You have another little one walking this direction. Now we're going to pick up a little green one. He's stepping here. He got stepped on here. He got stepped on here. He got stepped on here again. And now we're going to find him again. He's right here, 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 here. But now what happened? We have one that's cut in half. For you to be able to realize how hard limestone can get, limestone will turn to marble under severe heat and pressure. We can understand the heat from volcanoes. We can understand the pressure, the ocean coming in, laying down tons of dirt on top of it. But what we can't understand is why researchers doesn't like to share information. When they cut this particular track out, the University of Texas, they didn't tell us it was in the marble state. It took us a long time to find that out. But I'll tell you what it did take. It took 2.5 days, 2 giant gasoline rock saws, and 3 big husky men to cut one track out. So you can imagine how hard the stone was. In this particular corner, you have them all over the place. The green one goes on that way. Here comes a little and a big one, like they're following each other, coming through this way. So like we said, if we want to follow one of these, all we have to do is just keep digging. Like one of them asked us one day, why don't you tunnel through the mountain? We told him he'd pay for it, we'll gladly do it. He wouldn't do that for some reason. But we know behind this fence is the next door neighbor's property. I'm going to let him go up the hill a little bit if he wants to prove it to you. Because on the other side here, he has cleaned his half of the hill, or his little bit part of it, he's got about 30 foot, and followed the ledge clear around. When he did, yes, there's dinosaur tracks all the way. Then we followed it from there clear around to the backside of the hill. So this particular layer, we know positively, no matter how much we dig back, we're going to have more dinosaur tracks. One thing I did forget, and it's one of our good teaching tools. When the university cut this out, they had to destroy this one. They had to destroy this one to get one track out. The track that they cut out goes with this one here, and it goes underneath the hill. But to verify tracks are authentic, what they do is they cut one out, they take it up to the university, they cut it in half. When they cut it in half, they can see the compression pushing the mud down underneath the weight of that animal. We don't have to do that anymore because where they cut this one, we can see the imprint where he pushed the mud down. On this one here, it took and sealed the next 2 layers with the weight of his body. And that's how you verify that they are true. Okay, now we're down about 15, 20 feet below the first layer that you've seen. Also down here is more tracks on different layers. But the one we're standing on now is a coral reef. And you'll see actually some of the coral in the rock. But down here is where the big boys are. This is one big track. When these animals were walking here, can you imagine if this is a coral reef? It's along the edge of the ancient ocean. Yet this animal only left this kind of impression, and this animal probably weighed anywhere from 70 to 100 tons. And yet that's all the impression he left. So can you imagine how hard the rock was already? These particular layers down here, each layer is separate, just like you see. When this animal walked through, he's going on through here. But I didn't know that dinosaurs would live in salt water. It goes to show you. But this particular track, this is the end of his foot, where his toes push the mud. From here to right here is all we've lost on this track, being on the side of the hill. So only at the end of the toes have we lost. We wrote to one of the leading researchers that is supposed to have found the largest backbone and asked him, sent him a picture and the measurements, and asked him if he has any idea if this track could possibly go with that type of animal that he had found. We never received an answer. This is what happens every time we write to one of them. No matter who it is, and I can name you about a dozen right off the top of my head that we have wrote to and never received one answer. We've even invited, and so has some of the news media, a few of them, and they still will not come. But getting back to the dinosaurs, for you to be down this low, according to their estimation, you're standing on the Jurassic. Now, what in the world is the Jurassic doing on the side of our hill? The top layer you walked on was Cretaceous. But I have a surprise for you. If that is Upper Cretaceous, as they tell us, that's supposed to be the end of the dinosaurs. We can't get up there today probably, but up above, on the side of the hill, higher yet, about 100 and some feet, is still more layers with dinosaur tracks. The big boys, as I said, walking through here, if you look over here a little further, you'll see some more painted red. Those are also part of the big boys. Now, if we want to find any more of these tracks, do you imagine how much work it's going to involve? Because right here, where they're setting, there's about 2.5 feet of rock. All that has to come off, and we have to go back at least 40 feet to find 4 of his tracks. At least 40 feet. So you see, it would be quite a construction job. But what are you going to do when you take off those layers? What in the world would you do with all the tracks that's on those layers? Throw them away? There's no way to preserve them. You'd have to break them up. And that we won't do. So we just leave it like it is now. Looking over here to my left, there's another big track. We haven't decided which way he's going yet because it looks like 2 tracks. But if it looks like 2 tracks, we want to know, why isn't there 2 more tracks? Whenever you have something like this, you have to start theorizing. And we don't like to do that. We like the researchers to do that. There's part of it, and there's the other part. We've lost most of it. Now what we can't decide, is this the toe section, or is that part of a split heel? But we know it's 1 track because the mud coming down the center, if this animal had stepped first, then this animal stepped, the mud should be pushed this way more. But the mud is coming straight through. All the tracks, including the first big one I showed you, all have what they call an expansion joint. And that's so their foot can turn and twist. So that's probably what that's from, but we're going to have to go back and find another one. On the top layer up here, there's also more tracks. This particular top layer, which is about a foot thick, 1.5 feet, is the only layer that we've found so far that has worm marks. That's due to the fact the mud had to stay muddier and give the worms time to work through it, trying to get to more moisture before it hardened. So it's the only one we have, but yet it still has dinosaur tracks. They're not as clear as those up on top, but they're still tracks. When it rains and all these low spots fill with water, then we can really see them. Right here is a piece of screen wire. But inside that screen wire and down in that hole is a giant conch shell. But what you're looking at is a giant conch shell, and you can see the spirals. He's 42 inches deep, and he still has more dirt in him because there isn't any tools that we have that we can reach any further. When it's cleaned out and we look back inside of it, we can see the foot plate way back in here. So can you imagine 42 inches deep, how big that conch shell would be? Okay, all these little lines you see, going right on through. There's all kinds of them. Those have been identified as tail marks. Sometimes it's real smooth, and also sometimes you can see the hide marks by lines coming across. Those that show us the hide marks, they lay them down like this one here. Then he had to pick it up a little bit, and then it just barely hit. Here, here, and here, and now it's gone. So as they was coming through, they'd lay them down, then pick them up, and going wherever they were going would just barely hit the mud, and still not dragging them. This one over here is one of my favorites because it shows you one laid here, then he laid it down here, but also you can see the hide marks, and when he pulls it, you can see lines going with the way he's moving. Here's a dinosaur track. There's one here. There's one here. But also we have other tracks here. There's one here not uncovered yet. But here, there's one here, and one here. They've been identified as cat tracks. In our showcase, in our building, we have a cat's claw a professor has found. He's found 3 of them to be exact, where he looks. They're not a small cat either, they're pretty good size. Looking down below further, there's another layer and there's more tracks, big ones and 3-toes. There's a good 3-toed, there's a big one here, there's another good 3-toed here. But the one thing I want to show you, this road that you see cars going by is a major fault. When this fault happened and all this fell off, it made it go straight down because all the rocks right here are going almost straight down. All this that you see right here is what we call garbage. This particular garbage was rebuilt after the fault happened. The tail marks had to happen approximately at the same time because this had to be still a little wet to make these tail marks. But also, if you notice, there's also tail marks down here that coincides with them. So it had to have been all happening at the same time. The hills behind me that you see when this was being formed was not there. Those were raised when the faults and everything was happening. The date that has been put on it, they claim is millions and millions and millions of years. But like I say, who was here to prove it? Who can prove by a rock how old it actually is? We have been told that these rocks cannot be duplicated. And as you're going to see in a minute, it cannot be duplicated. We've moved on over further, and the layer I'm standing on now is actually one layer higher than what we was on just a few minutes ago. Also, there's still more big tracks, but they're not as clear because, like I said, you're still walking on part of the coral reef. Right here in front of the little yellow dinosaur is a perfect bear paw. You have the main paw, toe, 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 and toe. It's kind of hard to see, but coming up from it, because you got to stop and realize a cat can pull its claws in. A bear cannot. So anytime you find bear tracks, you have to find the claws. So going out about an inch, inch and a half from him, there's little bitty holes that you can see was filled with sediment. The first gentleman to find that was not a researcher, it was a gentleman from Canada. And he was a 40-year state licensed hunter. And I was really shocked when he brought us down here and showed it to us. We didn't quite believe him, so we went to the place in San Antonio that has a big bear standing up, and we looked for ourselves, and then we finally realized. It's a lot of things that we cannot accept what has been told to us. So we try to go out and find the answers. When we find those answers, we find out sometimes that they are correct, but most of the time there are not. So then we have to figure out from there. It doesn't take an education to find things like this, because 90% of your finds has not been found by researchers. They've been found by everyday individuals. But then the individual says, okay, university, here it is, it's yours. Then the university takes it from there, and then everything is hid. This place will never be hid from the open public. The one thing we do not hide, we refuse to hide. We also have a camel track up here. But the one thing we will not hide, and that's what's in this caged area. Inside the caged area is a large three-toed dinosaur track. Inside the dinosaur track is a size 9.5, flat-footed, barefooted human track. And one large step in front of it, which is right here, is the right foot. He's got quite a distance between him. If you notice right along this edge right here is where he stepped first. This increase. When he stepped, being that there was slime filling this track like sediment, he slipped down and took the mud and outlined his whole foot. His next track is right here. There's the toes. If you have a 9.5, put your foot in it, they fit perfect. But the one thing you got to stop and remember on something like this, like we've asked one of the foot specialists, when you're running and you slip, your foot is going to go with your weight. It's going to go down and back. So when you do that, you have to do one of two things. You either have to put your other foot down to hold your balance, or you have to swing your body around and cross your legs to pick up the other step so you don't fall. And that's exactly what this creature did. If this was the only set of human tracks that we have found, we're not out here trying to prove creation or evolution. We're trying to make an educational site on exactly what we're finding, the actual proof. The only thing we want to become is an educational site. But it seems like the educators doesn't want to admit when you find something that that's what you're looking at. They would rather hide it from the American people. So today, here at Dinosaur Flats, we only show what we find, and we believe what we see is to be God's only truth. Thank you. Deer track, split hoof, and they said, what makes you think that's a deer? I says, the reason I'm positive it's a deer, I'm looking for one with that big body to match that foot so I can feed my family all year. And they says, no, I'm sorry, that's camel. I says, now you wait a minute. Camels weren't supposed to be here either. They never did answer me. All the fossils you see on these boards is from the elementary middle school dig site. Have all types of snails. There's some mussels, sea urchins. These little balls you see right here are crinoid stems. These are the stems, and these are the little balls that go on top that open up like little flowers. There's some more of the little stems. Raise my little sign up here. This here is actual oyster shells. So it's just about every kind and any kind they want to find, they can find. As far as the snails, we have a lot of fun with those. Here's one that you can see up a little closer. Some of the clams are all different types. This is what they call the Texas heart. This one here, you can notice it's real flat, but it still looks like a little heart. So when we clean out all the sediment inside, then it will end up looking like this little guy that's already cleaned up. So it's all different types, but I think my favorite of all of them, I call him the hook. And that's just what he looks like. He's got little hooks on the top of him. But we also have found so many things that researchers or nobody, I don't know if it's because they don't want to or they just don't know. We cannot find out what some of the stuff is. Here's some of your coral. Whoops. Shoot it. That's your coral from the coral reef. We have the coral reef in the back of the property and in the front at the same elevation. Other types of fossils, there's just all kinds and everything there is. I'm going to show you some of the bones now off the first animal that was uncovered. This is the one they took away. That's a piece of vertebrae. When it was first identified, the reporters asked, the news media asked, if bones could be found, being that we had so many animals. They told them definitely not. Impossible, improbable, quote unquote. The news media says why? They said because dinosaurs didn't die where they lived. They all went to Colorado, Red China, or Canada, where they find all the bones. So when we start finding bones, nobody would come back and help us uncover any of it. This is a piece of rib I'm holding right now. If you think this is big, I'm going to have that young man right there turn behind him and pick up that big one that's on that stand there. It's heavy. So it's not little ones or big ones, it's all sizes. The smallest track, which is hard for anybody to film, but this is a casting from it. That's the smallest track we found so far. To show you one of the others that are still in the rock, we have him right here. We've been told that we have as good a display as some of the museums do. I'm beginning to believe it from what I've seen. There's one of your little baby tracks. It's in the original rock, and where this particular rock come from has been identified as the Triassic. According to all timing, dinosaurs weren't supposed to be in the Triassic, especially a three-toed, two-legged animal. Now, if we want to uncover another one, there's another one right here. So we take a hammer and hit on it, this will pop off, and then we'll have two dinosaur tracks. To show you what happened, turn the rock over, there's a coral, ocean formation. You have real thin layers building up, like silt floating down through the water. Then there was a storm and brought one big layer in. The water receded, the mud dried before the animals walked through. As far as small creatures, when we break the rocks apart, we find little bitty creatures. And right here is a little jawbone. It's going to be pretty hard for you to see, but he's got 10 little teeth along that top edge. And as far as ocean creatures, the rock itself is just nothing but actual ocean fossils. Everything coming in and being buried alive. We also know that there was volcanoes here. There's one place on the other side of the lake that her whole yard is nothing but volcanic rock. This is iron pyrite, which they tell me only volcanoes can send it out. And of course, there's some of your volcanic. To show you one of my favorite characters, there's one of your snails. Now, by all rights, he should have what we call a foot plate coming across, but he's lost it. Being that he lost it, we was able to get his mouth out. There's his mouth. We love this kind of teaching for the students, because when I ask a student where the mouth is, most of them even say here. I've even had seniors say, it's right there. It has not been researchers from any university, any of them, including the University of Texas. And they're supposed to be one of the biggest ones dealing in this type of thing. But according to them, we weren't supposed to have bones. But along comes a biology teacher from the local high school. She found the first bone. It's a jawbone. So holding it next to my jaw, you can see approximately how big that creature would have to be. He's not a very little creature. She wasn't satisfied with that. She was looking through some of the dirt we moved, and she found the plant eater's tooth. This is what he's biting with. The gum line sits right here. So he's no different than your tooth. The inside is sloping, the outside is straight up and down. She wasn't happy with that. She come back the next year, she found the big one in the same pile of dirt. And they're identical. Like we tell the children, they get cavities too. If you go to museums, you're going to see something like this for a Tyrannosaurus rex. But can you see the teeth? The teeth are going straight up and down. The most complete Tyrannosaurus rex ever found, up to date, was finished uncovering last year in southern Oklahoma. We've had a couple of the researchers here. It was so complete that the head even had, the jaws had teeth in them. We've known for 9 years that dinosaurs' teeth point straight back, meat eaters. But now they know it positively because they have to wait to find one. They finally did. And then they found another one in the Dakotas that was part of the head, but it had teeth in the jaw. So his gum line is sitting here. Their teeth all point straight back in their mouth for ripping and pulling. If their teeth stood up, like it shows in the museums, when he opened his mouth, his prey can get away from him. So by his teeth pointed backwards, then he can grip on them, and they can't get away from him.
Well, what a day it's been with Helen and Kenneth here at Dinosaur Flats. I know if you're through this way, you're going to feel as welcome and excited as we have been. And I want to say, Kenneth, thank you so very much, and I appreciate you all's efforts.
Thank you for coming.
Well,
Thank you very much.
it's been obvious how much work you all have done here. And when people want to preserve our historical heritage, certainly you two have put it more than to words. You've put the back into it. And we just appreciate you so very much for that. You're going to be showing the address here, and if any of you wish to help them with donations, well, feel free to do so. And then don't forget to stop by. Millions of years ago, the dinosaurs walked here in Dinosaur Valley. And you know something? You have been there.